Brandon, it's time to get ready for school.
One of the interesting things is all the primary players in this movie see the theme is something different. I think it is really about nature versus nurture, what really makes a person a person.
It's Mom. It's Mom.
I find that all really fascinating as a mom of boys, and just knowing that you want to be open to who your kid is, but you also want to protect them at all costs.
You were sleepwalking, I think.
Kyle and Tori do the best they can to raise this kid, but he just starts to change, and there's nothing that they can really do about it. And maybe if they try harder, maybe things will be different. But ultimately, when the reality hits them, it hits them hard.
When I read the script, I felt like this was a movie about parenting and about how to parent a difficult child. And I think that's a balance every parent can relate to. Like, how much do I discipline him? How much do I love him? What is that balance in life?
Give it to me.
I'm sorry, what'd you just say to me?
I said, give it to me.
The emotional core of the movie is a story about a mother and son. When I read Brian and Mark's script, there was Tori, who has this son who she believes is special. Everything around her is telling her, yo, there's something that might not be okay about this. And she fought all the powers, and she said, no, he's special. I believe in him. He's gonna be something.
The bond between his mom and him is so strong. And that's why in the movie, it's just so almost tragic that it's completely kind of severed.
You have to know that your dad and I, we believe that you came here for a reason, that you are special.
And then it ends with bam, bam, screaming.
You're safe now. We got it.
Tori is a Midwestern mom. She's in her early 40s, been married basically to her high school sweetheart, and had trouble conceiving a baby. And so she and her husband ended up finding an infant in the woods and taking him in and raising them as their own.
Kyle is the father. He's always been a little reticent about adopting, but at the end of the day is really madly in love with his wife and this family unit. He'll do anything for her and ultimately attempts to.
He loves both of them, but his dad is a little bit of a hothead, but it's still, they definitely have a loving relationship, and at least in the beginning of the movie.
I will handle it.
No. Did you hurt Noah? What did you do to him? He was my friend, and you just fucking...
I think that Tori really believed it was a miracle, that it was an act of God or of the universe, that she has a higher calling, which is to care for this boy.
And I saw a lot of my mom in that character and her relationship with me, because I was a kid who was into weird stuff. And so my mom had to keep going to school and telling the teachers, he's weird, but he's just creative, and like, he's gonna do something cool one day.
Do you even know who his real mother is?
I'm his real mother.
Kyle and Tori have two different ways of going about dealing with Brandon, although I think Kyle's instinct is to be a lot more stern and a lot more aggressive and old school, and he is trying not to do that, but eventually it's the fear of what this kid is going to do to other people.
And now the big secret that's in their lives is coming home to roost, and secrets are not good for anyone's life or relationship.
We've got to do something. If we don't, more people are going to get hurt. More people will die. You got to be with me on this.
I will never turn against our son.
He's not our son!
I love this movie because I get to run around and kick butt, and ultimately, I like that it doesn't have a happy ending for me.
What I love about the story is that it's the Midwest, it's Kansas, it's a regular family. This insane thing happens to them, this absurdist supernatural event occurs, and it tears them apart. And it's great to watch that happen.
It is such a ride. Once you get into it, it's so creepy and it's so intense. It's a fun ride. It's a fun ride.
I actually think I would teach my character to stick to her guns about love, because at the end of the day, even though her son does really, really, truly unforgivable things, I think it's her failure as a parent that causes him to go bad.
If I could teach my character one thing, it would be, you should have stopped it sooner. That's all I would tell him.
I know there is good inside you.
Brightburn it's a hero's origin story.
Nothing to be afraid of. Your classmates have your back.
And taking superhero moments and telling them through a horror lens.
Way to trust the floor, Brian.
He's compelled by his nature to do something truly awful.
Caitlin, give me a hand up. We're all on the same team here.
What are you doing?
Brandon!
Go! Stop it!
Brandon, stop!
We wanted to do a movie that was a superhero origin story, but that was a horror film. First and foremost, a horror film. My brother Brian and my cousin Mark brought a script to Dave Yarvo, the director.
The fun of this movie is taking horror scares and bringing them to superhero movies.
The idea comes from Brian, who has an adopted son, and he had this fear that when you invite a child into your house, you're inviting a stranger in. Regardless of whether it's adopted, you're concerned about who that child is going to turn out to be.
We've come at every angle of the superhero movie that we possibly could, and this one is just completely different. It's coming at it from a straighter horror angle.
Things are pretty black and white in a horror film. You know, there's the good guys and the bad guys, but this was on another level.
When I first read Brightburn, I knew it was special. I knew it was different because it didn't fall into either the horror category or the superhero category. It was this incredible blend.
Where are you?
I'm home, Mom.
We started auditioning for Brandon Bryce. Now, we thought this was going to be a really hard role to cast.
Jackson was one of the first of the boys to read. I think he was in our first batch, and he was impossible to top.
It's all acting, right? I'm most excited to, as I play him, I get to experience the changes that he goes through throughout the movie.
Brandon as a character, on the one side, he's this sweet, lovable boy. And on the other side, he's trying to be more independent, just like all kids do.
Some of it is stuff that I can pull from real-life experience, and then some of it is killing people.
This kid is going through his adolescence.
And he also is finding things out about himself and about what he can do and his powers that makes him feel literally powerful.
Brandon is heavily conflicted. He tries to see it as more of an evil force, but when everyone in his normal life starts betraying him, he starts to see it as something that's more comforting.
Traditionally, in a horror movie, they pull the chain, they turn, and a slasher is there, the audience screams, and then he stabs him, and then you cut to black, right? But in this, he looks over, and he sees his nephew in his closet wearing a mask, and he just rips the mask off of him, and it's like, what are you doing here?
Brandon, get in the truck!
You're one of the only people in the world that knows how special I am. But someday, they will all know.
I think people are going to love to see this movie because it's a superhero origin story about a kid that doesn't necessarily become a superhero. Perhaps he just becomes a monster.
We always assume these heroes are here for good and that if we just love them and worship them, they're gonna help us as humans. And the simple question that this film asks is, what if they don't?
Oh my God.
Just the emotional depth you don't always see in a horror movie. And so I think that's really unique about the script is that it's a drama horror. There's a lot more than just supernatural activity.
I just think the characters are human. Even Brandon, as bad as he is, and as terribly as he is, and as alien as he is, there's something very human about him, and be afraid of at the same time.
Take the gold. 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 Take the world. Take the world.
Tori?
Brightburn is so entertaining on so many levels. I also really feel it's a relatable story for families.
Hey, baby. What are you doing?
And for people who are thinking about having kids, they probably won't want them after this.
We've tried for so long to have a baby, and he's here.
Those of us who do have kids, it really makes you question all of your parenting decisions. So there's so many relatable levels to this movie. I think that's what makes it different from every other superhero movie.
Good, good. Stay there, and just run it again faster.
I've always known Dave as an incredibly insightful, smart guy who also does his homework, and I think he probably watched 1,000 horror movies before this. He has a real sense for horror, for the musicality of horror, how the beats work, how you set up a jump scare, how you get people frightened while they're watching a scene, how to make an actor do the thing that helps the audience to put themselves in his body. I think it's fantastic watching him work. I'm learning a lot from him. I wouldn't have made this movie with him if he was just my friend and I didn't think he was a fabulous director. I used to direct web series and Dave would produce them. So we've known each other for a long time. We've switched hats and gone back and forth, and probably will do more of that in the future.
It's an interesting world that Brandon lives in, and the possibilities are so endless.
The mainstream media, as usual, trying to sell you a load of bullshit.
I think that Michael Rooker scene at the end is really interesting, and I think that people should watch it and think about it.
Like what we were talking about last week, some kind of witch woman who choked people out with ropes and cords.
You never know if you're afforded the opportunity to make another one, but certainly there's a lot more ways to be scared in this world.
They are all out there. They are all waiting. And they're all gonna eat a fucking breakfast unless we get our shit together and do something.